Here's kind of a scary thought, memory. It's also kind of depressing. Um, when I was a child, and I just had started joining bands, playing the clarinet, and usually, like with my older brothers and sisters in the Waukegan grade school band system, there was a beginner band, an intermediate band, and then the grade school concert band, which was the biggie that won all kinds of state championships and played very difficult music as compared to the intermediate and beginner band that played beginner stuff. I was considered something of a prodigy on the clarinet, and I hated it. I hated playing the clarinet. Never practiced, but damn it, I was good. So I only went to, I don't believe I was ever in the beginner band. I went straight into the intermediate band and only was there for like one or two rehearsals that I recall, when I was taken out and put into the grade school concert band, the advanced one, that had mostly kids in 7th and 8th grade, whereas I was I think I was 3rd grade. So I was scared to death. I was intimidated. I didn't know any of these big kids who were teenagers, and I was still a kid. And they were playing Der Rosenkavalier. Very difficult stuff. So I was very afraid, very intimidated. But anyway, my first year there in that band turned out to be a girl who was, I don't know if she was in her 7th grade or 8th grade. She played trumpet, cornet. Turned out to be her last year in the band and her last year of life. When I'm walking here in Lyons Woods, it makes me think of her because it was fall, and I don't remember the exact year. It was 1970 something. But she went out on her bike. It wasn't this forest preserve, it was another forest preserve in Waukegan. She went out looking for pine cones and leaves and things for a school project. And she was later found raped and murdered. It was a big, scary, scandally thing. They had to find out who did it. They finally did, and he was arrested and sent away to prison. However, I don't know if it was like 10 years ago or something like that, he's been let out of prison. Sort of through a loophole. And he's now living as a homeless person down in Florida. But anyway, her name was Lisa Slusser, and her parents set up a scholarship in her name, and for kids in the concert band who showed promise, who were especially talented, the other band members would vote, and they would get a scholarship to study music at the summer camp at the University of Illinois. I was the youngest kid ever to be in the concert band, and I was the only one to win the scholarship. I believe I won it twice. But I think about her when I'm walking in a forest preserve like this, and how terrified she must have been. And it makes me think, do you ever think about that when you're out walking, like in the woods by yourself, or do you ever think about, what if somebody, I mean, it happens. It happened to her. I mean, he must have just come out of the woods and attacked her. What would you do if that happened? The reason I made this video is because I was walking back there, and I just, I think about her, especially during the fall like this. And I think, what would I do? Down at Starved Rock, there were, the Starved Rock murders back in the late 50s, early 60s. 3 ladies were brutally murdered in St. Louis Canyon at Starved Rock. I've talked about that in the past. But before that, across from Starved Rock, there is Matheson State Park. And the guy that murdered those ladies at Starved Rock committed at least one rape over at Matheson before he committed the murders at Starved Rock. So, it's it can be creepy. I know that, of course, there's more risk for something like that happening to women than it would to me as a man, but still, I like to ask myself, what would I do? I'd probably have to fight. I don't carry a weapon. Sometimes I think I should carry pepper spray, not for people attacking, but in case Busby should get into a spat with another dog. I don't, but I think that I should. I always remember there's a trick that I picked up, and that is if you have a set of keys. Let me get mine here. Where are they? Must be in the other pocket. You carry them in a way that they are interspersed between your fingers, like that. And if you have several, you put them in between the other fingers, so that if you ever have to punch, it adds a extra jab along with your punch. I always think about that. I would probably do that. But anyway, like I said, I know this isn't a very pleasant conversation, but it is kind of a spooky kind of conversation for Halloween, and I think it's a good one. I think people should sometimes think about these types of things, because we live in a violent world, unfortunately. It seems to be getting ever more violent. And I sometimes think we should always be mindful of, where exits are, have some sort of a plan, and not be a sitting duck or a gullible victim. Anyway, on that note, now if that arrow is back, and if the pine cones are set up back into the phallic position, that's going to be creepy. But I don't see them here. I think we already passed where the arrow was. Because that's the naughty bench ahead. Okay, that's all. I'm cold. We're going home. Bye.